Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is the 9th movie in the Star Wars franchise, directed by J.J. Abrams, stars Daisy Ridley, all these characters, and in this film we see Rey, Kylo Ren, Finn, Poe, all these characters we've been following the sequel trilogy for as they do stuff, and that's it. I can't really say the plot without spoiling a lot of things, so go see the movie if you want just to get the plot. So what are my thoughts on this movie? Oh boy. Generally speaking, this isn't a bad movie. This isn't even one of the worst movies that I have ever seen. It's not even one of the worst movies I've seen all year. But it's easily, without a doubt, the most disappointing film I've seen all year. And there's quite a bit to like, but also equally quite a bit to get irritated by. And there are a lot of things that irritated me. Just choices that no filmmaker making a Star Wars movie should do. And this just feels like an apology for what happened in The Last Jedi. Which for me, I love The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi still. They're still easily up there to being my favorite Star Wars movies. But this film, it just didn't stick the landing of this trilogy. And all of it's because it just barely takes any risks. And the risks it takes breeze by so incredibly fast. And normally, I would like a fast-paced Star Wars movie. Some of my favorite Star Wars movies feel like they're an hour long despite being 2.5 hours, like Empire Strikes Back. That movie flies by fast. It flies by so incredibly fast. Even The Force Awakens, I think, is one of the most fast-paced, energized, and fun movies in the entire Star Wars movie series. This goes by so incredibly fast to the point where you don't even remember what happened each scene. It's so hastily rushed, and it just didn't work for me. The first 2 acts didn't work for me. The final act is fun. It's a lot of fun, and it has a lot of fan service, as you come to expect with these movies. But my big issue is, how much do they really need to retcon to get a good Star Wars movie? For me, I love The Last Jedi so much, but this film feels like an apology for what they did in that movie. There's so many things they retcon, so many characters they go back on, their motivations, their arcs. It just feels so disjointed. It feels so... feels like this isn't the Star Wars movie we really wanted. And unfortunately, I can't really envy the task of making a movie like this after The Last Jedi. How divisive that movie is. I think this is more of a fan pleaser rather than making a good Star Wars movie. Now, there are good things to this movie. Obviously, the visuals are spectacular. The action sequences, when they're actually in the movie, they're a lot of fun. And I do like some of these characters. Easily the best thing I could say about this movie. In fact, the best thing I could say about the sequel trilogy in regards to consistency is Adam Driver as Kylo Ren. He easily has the best arc of the film. He easily feels the most fleshed out. He easily steals every scene he's in. And he's easily the best written character in the movie. Other than him, the rest of the characters feel underdeveloped and underwritten. Like Rey, for example. I still like this character, but things in this movie that she's in and participating in could use a little bit more energy, or at the very least, a little bit more thought into it. And one last thing. I do not know why the Emperor's in this movie. Honestly, if you take him out of this movie, why are you losing? Imagine Snoke still being alive, and he's still the main antagonist of this entire series. What do you get when you just replace Snoke with the Emperor? Barely anything. And many things in this movie just don't make sense with him. I have a lot of time to marinate on this movie. I saw it yesterday, and I keep thinking about it. Do I like this movie because I'm a Star Wars fan, or do I not like it because I'm a Star Wars fan? Honestly, it's just not fun to be a Star Wars fan anymore, or at least with this sequel trilogy, discussing the sequel trilogy, how inconsistent it is now. It's just not fun. And while there are moments in this movie that made me grin, made me laugh, and just made me had a good time in the theater, I can't say that this is the best Star Wars movie I've seen. It's easily probably the worst Star Wars movie I've seen since, if we're going to take a stretch, Attack of the Clones, but really the Clone Wars movie that came out in 2008. I'm going to give Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker a C. I'm sorry if you guys really like this movie. I don't blame you. I don't blame anyone that made this movie. I don't blame any fans that like this movie. It's just that for me, it just feels like such a different movie from what we had previously. And I wish J.J. Abrams really made a plan. That's another issue I forgot to say. This movie shows there's no plan with this trilogy. And it shows. I'm sorry, guys. I really do feel let down by this movie. And I wish I wasn't. Well, that's 2019 for me. Oh yeah, there's one more review. Cats. Alright, that's 2019. I think this is the last review I'll do for this year. Depending on whether or not I'm going to do a spoiler review. I don't know if I'm going to do a spoiler review. Depends if I'm really up to it. But my list for the best movies of this year and the worst movies of this year are coming your way soon. You guys are amazing. And I'll see you all later, recruits. Take care.